Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Hughes Valiant, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship was huge, bigger than anything humans had built before. It carried over 3,000 crew members and enough weapons to destroy a small moon. But right now, Jake felt very small. The communication officer turned around in her chair. "Captain, we're getting a priority message from Earth Command. It's marked urgent." Jake walked over to the main screen. "Put it through, Lieutenant Davis." The screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Lisa Carter's face. She looked tired and worried. Behind her, Jake could see the busy command center on Earth. People were running around, and red warning lights were flashing. "Jake, we have a situation," Admiral Carter said. "The Galactic Council has sent us an ultimatum. You need to see this." The screen changed, and Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. 12 different alien faces appeared on the screen, each one representing a different species from across the galaxy. In the center was a tall reptilian creature with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. This was Commander Zethkar of the Zephyrian Empire. "Humans of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English, but his voice sounded like grinding metal. "For 300 years, you have spread across the galaxy like a disease. You take worlds that do not belong to you. You fight wars that bring chaos to peaceful systems. You refuse to follow the laws that have kept the galaxy safe for over 1,000 years. Jake felt his hands tighten into fists. The alien continued talking. "The Galactic Council has been patient with your species. We have tried to teach you the proper way to live in civilized space, but you continue to ignore our guidance. You build weapons that are too powerful. You expand too quickly. You show no respect for the order that has brought peace to billions of beings." Another alien appeared on the screen. This one looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and black eyes. "I am Hive Queen Vextar of the Vrak Empire. Your species is dangerous. You adapt too quickly to new situations. You fight in ways that break the rules of war. You cannot be controlled, and what cannot be controlled must be eliminated." Jake's stomach dropped. This was not going to be a friendly conversation. Commander Zethkar spoke again. "Therefore, the Galactic Council gives you this final warning. You have 72 hours to do the following. First, you will abandon all colonies beyond your home solar system. Second, you will destroy all military ships except those needed to defend Earth itself. Third, you will submit to Council oversight and follow all galactic laws without question." The reptilian alien's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "If you refuse these terms, the Council will have no choice but to remove the human threat permanently. We have assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. We have weapons that can turn your worlds into dust. We have the power to make your species extinct." The screen went black, leaving Jake and his crew in stunned silence. Admiral Carter's face appeared again. "Jake, I need you to return to Earth immediately. President Walsh is calling an emergency meeting of the Colonial Assembly. Every ship captain, every colonial governor, and every military commander in human space needs to be there." "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "How bad is it?" "Bad?" Carter said. "Our long-range sensors show alien fleets moving to surround our colonies. They're not attacking yet, but they're getting into position. It looks like they're planning to blockade every human world if we don't surrender." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What are our chances if we fight?" Admiral Carter was quiet. "For a moment, honestly, not good. The Council has 12 species working together. They have thousands of ships, many of them bigger, and more advanced than anything we have. They've been building their military for centuries, while we've only been in space for 300 years. But, Jake asked, sensing there was more. "But they don't understand us," Carter said. "They think we're just another species, that will bow down when threatened. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to give up, no matter how bad things get. Jake nodded. He knew what she meant. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy for being stubborn and unpredictable. Other species often called them crazy for the risks they took and the way they fought. "I'm setting course for Earth now," Jake said. "We'll be there in 18 hours. "Good. And Jake, tell your crew to prepare for war. I have a feeling we're going to need every ship and every person we can get." The screen went dark, and Jake turned to face his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. These were good people, humans from dozens of different worlds who had joined the Earth Defense Force to protect their homes and families. "You heard the Admiral," Jake said. "We're going home. Lieutenant Davis, send a message to all human colonies. Tell them what's happening. Tell them to prepare their defenses and wait for further orders." "Yes, sir," Davis replied. "Commander Rodriguez, I want you to check our weapon systems. Make sure everything is working perfectly. If we're going to fight, we need to be ready." Amy Rodriguez, the ship's weapons officer, nodded. "I'll have a full report in 2 hours, Captain." Jake looked around the bridge one more time. "Everyone, I want you to understand something. The aliens think they can scare us into giving up. They think we'll just hand over our colonies and let them tell us how to live. But they're wrong." He walked to the center of the bridge, where everyone could see him clearly. "We've been fighting for our place in this galaxy since the day we left Earth. We've faced pirates, hostile aliens, and deadly worlds. We've never backed down before, and we're not going to start now." The crew was listening carefully. Jake could see the determination in their eyes. "In 72 hours, we're going to give the Galactic Council our answer. And I think they're going to be very surprised by what we have to say." The Hughes Valiant turned toward Earth, its engines burning bright in the darkness of space. Behind them, the stars looked peaceful and calm. But Jake knew that peace was about to end. On dozens of human worlds, colonists were getting the news. Families were gathering in their homes, talking about what to do. Some were scared, but others were getting angry. Humans had worked hard to build their new homes among the stars. They had fought against impossible odds to create a better life. For their children. Now, the aliens wanted to take it all away. Jake stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the screen. Soon, he would sit in a room with the most powerful humans in the galaxy. They would decide the fate of their entire species. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought humans would choose safety over freedom. They thought humans would choose to live on their knees rather than die on their feet. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As the Hughes Valiant approached Earth, Jake allowed himself a small smile. The Galactic Council wanted to know what humans would choose when faced. With extinction. Soon, they would have their answer. The meeting room on Earth was filled with tension. President Kevin Walsh sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by the most important people in human space. Admiral Lisa Carter was there, along with General Ryan Mitchell, who commanded the ground forces. Colonial governors from 47 different worlds attended by video link, their faces serious and worried. Captain Jake Morrison stood near the back of the room, still wearing his uniform from the long journey home. He had been on his ship for 20 hours straight, but he was too anxious to feel tired. "Ladies and gentlemen," President Walsh began, "we all know why we're here. The Galactic Council has given us 3 days to surrender everything we've built, or they'll destroy us completely." Governor Ben Parker from New Denver spoke up through the video link. "Mr. President, my world has been surrounded by wreck ships for the past 6 hours. They're not attacking, but they're not letting anyone leave either. My people are scared." Similar reports came from other colonies. The agricultural world of Haven's Gate was blocked by Zephyrian warships. The research Stations near the galactic rim were being watched by crystal-like ships from the Helix Collective. "They're trying to frighten us," General Mitchell said. "It's a classic intimidation tactic. They want us to panic and make a quick decision." Ambassador Claire Thompson, who had dealt with aliens for 20 years, shook her head. "This is different. General, I've never seen the Council act with such coordination. They're not just trying to scare us. They're preparing for total war." President Walsh looked tired. "What are options?" Dr. Rachel Stone, a scientist who studied alien biology, raised her hand. "We could try to negotiate. Maybe we can find a compromise." "No," Admiral Carter said firmly. "I've been studying their ultimatum. They're not interested in compromise. They want complete submission or complete destruction. There's no middle ground." General Mitchell stood up. "Then we fight. We've been preparing for this possibility for years. We have contingency plans, hidden weapons, and defensive strategies they don't know about." "Against 12 species?" Governor Parker asked. "Ryan, they have thousands of ships. We have maybe 300 combat vessels in our entire fleet." "Numbers aren't everything," Mitchell replied. "We've beaten larger forces before." Jake found himself speaking up. "General Mitchell is right. I've fought against alien pirates and raiders. They fight by rules. They follow predictable patterns. But we don't." Admiral Carter nodded. "Jake makes a good point. The Council species have been at peace for so long, they've forgotten how to adapt during a real war. They think in terms of large fleets and massive battles. We think in terms of survival." President Walsh was quiet for a long moment. "If we fight, many of our worlds will be destroyed. Millions of people will die. If we surrender, our species will die slowly," General Mitchell said. "They'll control everything we do, everywhere we go. Our children will grow up as slaves." Dr. Stone spoke again. "There might be another way. Not all species in the galaxy support the Council. Some of them might be willing to help us if we approach them correctly." Ambassador Thompson looked interested. "The Tide Runners have always been independent. They only joined the Council because they had no choice. And the Luminari have been complaining about Council taxes for decades." "That's a long shot," Admiral Carter said. "Even if we could get some allies, it would take time to organize them." "Time we don't have," President Walsh pointed out. "We have less than 48 hours to give them our answer." The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking about the same thing. Either they gave up everything they had worked for, or they faced a war they probably couldn't win. Jake thought about his crew on the Hughes Valiant. Good people who had families on human worlds. They had signed up to protect those families, not to watch them be destroyed by alien warships. But he also thought of what it would mean to surrender. Humans would become second-class citizens in their own galaxy. They would never be allowed to explore new worlds or develop new technologies. They would live forever under the control of species that saw them as dangerous animals. "I have something to say," Jake announced. The room turned to look at him. "I've been in space for 15 years. I've seen what humans can do when they're desperate. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We find a way to win, even when winning seems impossible." He walked to the front of the room. "The aliens think they understand us because they've watched us for 3 centuries. But they don't understand the most important thing about humans. We get stronger when we're cornered." General Mitchell smiled. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "I'm suggesting we give them exactly what they asked for," Jake said. "A war." President Walsh frowned. "Jake, we've been over this. The odds are against us." "The odds are always against us," Jake replied. "When we first left Earth, everyone said, we'd die in space. When we met the first aliens, everyone said they'd destroy us. When we started building colonies, everyone said we'd fail. But we're still here. Admiral Carter was nodding slowly. Jake's right. We've never fought a war by playing it safe. We've won by doing things our enemies don't expect. But this is different, Dr. Stone said. This isn't a few pirate ships. This is the entire Galactic Council. Then we'll have to be more creative than ever before, General Mitchell said. We'll have to fight smarter, not harder. Ambassador Thompson looked thoughtful. If we're going to do this, we need to start building alliances immediately. I can reach out to the Tide Runners and the Luminari. Maybe some of the smaller species will join us if they think we have a chance. What about weapons? Governor Parker asked. We need more than just our regular ships. Admiral Carter smiled for the first time in hours. We've been working on some projects in the outer asteroid belt. Things the Council doesn't know about. If we're going to war, we might as well use everything we have. President Walsh looked around the room. Are we all in agreement? Are we really going to fight the entire Galactic Council? One by one, everyone in the room nodded. The colonial governors on the video screens agreed as well. Even Dr. Stone, who had wanted to negotiate, finally nodded her head. Then it's decided. President Walsh said, We fight. Jake felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. This was the biggest decision in human history. They were about to go to war against enemies who outnumbered them 10-1. But he also felt something else. Pride. Humans had always been fighters. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They had conquered their own planet, and then reached for the stars. Now they would find out if they were strong enough to keep what they had built. Admiral Carter stood up. Everyone, we have 45 hours to prepare. I want every ship armed and ready. I want every colony fortified. And I want every human in the galaxy to know that we're not backing down. What about the Council's deadline? Ambassador Thompson asked. Jake Morrison stepped forward. I'll deliver our answer personally. My ship is fast enough to reach there. Fleet before the deadline expires. What will you tell them? President Walsh asked. Jake thought for a moment. The entire room was waiting for his answer. When he spoke, his voice was calm and confident. I'll tell them that humans don't surrender. I'll tell them that if they want our worlds, they'll have to take them by force. And I'll tell them that when this war is over, they'll wish they had never heard of Earth. He paused, looking around. The room at all the faces watching him. I'll tell them that they asked for war, and now they're going to get it. But they should prepare to watch their worlds burn, because that's exactly what's going to happen. The room was silent for a moment. Then, slowly, people began to smile. It was a grim smile, but it was real. The humans had made their choice. Now it was time to see if they could survive it. The U.S. Valiant moved through space toward the Galactic Council fleet. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the alien ships grow larger on the screen. There were hundreds of them, all different sizes and shapes, representing 12 different species. Captain, Lieutenant Davis called out, they're demanding we surrender immediately. Tell them we're here to deliver Earth's official response, Jake replied. Open a channel to their flagship. The screen flickered, and Commander Zethkar's reptilian face appeared. His yellow eyes looked angry and impatient. Human Captain, you are surrounded by the most powerful fleet in galactic history. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Jake stood up straight, looking directly at the alien commander. Commander Zethkar, I bring you the official response of the human government to your ultimatum. Speak quickly. The alien hissed. Jake took a deep breath. The human response is simple. You want war? Then prepare to watch your worlds burn. The alien's eyes widened with surprise and rage. You dare threaten us? You have 300 ships. We have 3,000. You will be destroyed within days. Maybe, Jake said calmly. But we'll take a lot of you with us. And we'll make sure The galaxy remembers what happens when you try to cage humans. The screen went black. Jake turned to his crew. Take us home. It's time to go to war. Within hours, the Council's response began. Alien fleets attacked human colonies across the galaxy. The mining world of New Denver was hit first. Wrack ships dropped from hyperspace and began bombing the surface installations. But Governor Ben Parker was ready. He had turned the mining equipment into weapons, just like General Mitchell had suggested. Giant excavators launched rocks at the enemy ships like primitive catapults. The aliens weren't expecting such simple tactics, and several ships were damaged. Before they could adjust, on the research station near Kepler 442b, Dr. Rachel Stone was working frantically in her laboratory. She had spent the last 2 days developing biological weapons designed specifically for alien physiology. Not to kill them, but to make them sick and confused. The Wrack have an insect-like nervous system, she explained to her assistants. This compound will make them dizzy and unable to coordinate their attacks. And this one will make the Zephyrians hallucinate for hours. Her weapons were loaded into small drones that could slip past alien defenses. Within hours, enemy boarding parties were collapsing or running in circles, seeing things that weren't there. Meanwhile, Admiral Carter was implementing her secret plans. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt came online, producing vessels that looked nothing like traditional human ships. These were designed for hit-and-run attacks, not fleet battles. Commander Amy Rodriguez led a squadron of these new ships on their first mission. They were small, fast, and armed with experimental weapons. Their target was a Council supply convoy heading to reinforce the attack on New Denver. Remember, Rodriguez told her pilots, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to cause chaos and fear. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and get out before they can respond. The attack was devastating. The human ships came out of nowhere, destroyed half the convoy, and vanished back into hyperspace before the escorts could react. The surviving aliens were terrified by the human tactics. Captain Morrison was given command of a destroyer group with orders to disrupt Council communications. His ships were equipped with powerful jamming devices and computer viruses designed to crash alien systems. That the Battle of Proxima Station became legendary. The station was surrounded by Wrack ships, but Commander Steve Wallace refused to surrender. When his defenses failed, he made a decision that shocked everyone. All hands abandon ship, Wallace announced. I'm taking this station straight into their flagship. The massive station, powered by a fusion reactor, accelerated toward the enemy fleet. The Wrack ships tried to stop it, but Wallace had disabled the safety systems. When the station hit the flagship, both exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Wrack dreadnoughts were destroyed, and the rest of the fleet retreated in panic. The aliens had never seen anything like it. No rational being would destroy themselves and their own base just to hurt the enemy. But humans weren't rational by alien standards. On Earth, Ambassador Thompson was working around the clock to build alliances. The Tide Runners were the first to respond. They were an aquatic species that had always felt uncomfortable with the Council's rigid rules. We will help you, their leader, Flow Singer Kethala, told Thompson through a secure channel. The Council has controlled us for too long. It is time for change. The Luminari, beings made of pure energy, were harder to convince. They communicated through patterns of light that took hours to interpret. But eventually, they agreed to disrupt. Council power grids on key worlds. General Mitchell launched Operation Hellfire, a coordinated attack on Council infrastructure. Instead of trying to conquer enemy worlds, human forces targeted power plants, communication centers, and transportation hubs. Colonel Nathan Brooks led a special forces team to the Zephyrian homeworld. Their mission was to infiltrate the planet's climate control systems. The Zephyrians had controlled their weather for so long that they had forgotten what natural storms looked like. "We're not going to destroy the system," Rooks explained to his team. "We're going to make it create the biggest storm in their planet's history. Let's see how they handle some real weather." The results were spectacular. Massive hurricanes swept across the Zephyrian capital, shutting down their government and military command centers. The aliens, who hadn't experienced natural weather in centuries, were paralyzed by the chaos. Dr. Stone's biological weapons proved even more effective than expected. The airborne compounds she had developed were released on several council worlds, causing widespread panic as enemy forces became sick and disoriented. "The psychological impact is incredible," she reported to Admiral Carter. "They're more afraid of our biological weapons than our regular guns. They think we're capable of anything." And maybe they were right. Human forces were using tactics that no other species had ever considered. They turned mining equipment into weapons, crashed space stations into enemy ships, and used weather itself as a tool of war. The Council's rigid military structure was not designed to handle such unpredictable enemies. Their commanders kept trying to apply traditional strategies to an enemy that refused to follow traditional rules. Captain Morrison's raiders captured a Council communication hub in the Outer Rim. The intelligence they gathered was invaluable. The aliens were arguing among themselves, unable to agree on how to fight the humans. "They're scared," Morrison reported to Admiral Carter. "They expected us to fight like civilized beings. Instead, we're fighting like barbarians, and they don't know how to respond." The turning point came when the Tide Runners officially declared war on the Council. Their aquatic ships launched simultaneous attacks on wrecked shipping lanes, causing massive economic damage. Other species began to question the Council's authority. If humans could fight back successfully, maybe the Council wasn't as powerful as everyone thought, but the Council wasn't giving up. It began preparing for a massive assault on Earth itself. Every available ship was being recalled to form the largest fleet in galactic history. Admiral Carter knew that Earth couldn't survive such an attack. She made a decision that would change everything. "We're not going to wait for them to come to us," she announced to her commanders. "We're going to attack their capital world, Nexus Prime." The plan was insane. Nexus Prime was the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. It had energy shields that could stop entire fleets and weapons that could destroy moons. But Carter had learned something important from the war so far. The aliens expected humans to be logical and cautious. They would never expect a direct assault on their most important world. "We're going to do something so crazy that they'll never see it coming," she explained. "We're going to attack the heart of their empire with everything we have." Jake Morrison looked at the plan and shook his head. "Admiral, this is suicide. We'll be outnumbered 100-1. "Maybe," Carter replied. "But if we succeed, we'll end this war in one blow. And if we fail, at least we'll go down fighting." The entire human fleet began moving toward Nexus Prime. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier was committed to the attack. It was the biggest gamble in human history. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Admiral Carter broadcast a message to every human world. "Citizens of Earth and the colonies, we are about to launch the final assault of this war. We may not survive, but we will show the galaxy that humans never surrender. We will fight until the very end." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes and fury of an entire species. They were going to attack the most powerful civilization in the galaxy, and they were going to win or die trying. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Defiant, watching the massive planet grow larger on the screen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Nexus Prime was covered in gleaming cities that stretched across entire continents. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet like metal rings, each one bristling with weapons. Energy shields flickered around the planet's surface, creating a protective bubble that had never been broken. "Captain," Lieutenant Davis called out, "I'm reading over 800 enemy ships in the system. They're moving to intercept us." Jake smiled grimly. "Let them come. Remember, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to win." Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter. Today, we fight for the freedom of every human in the galaxy. Show them what happens when they try to cage us." The battle began with chaos. The human ships didn't form traditional battle lines. Instead, they attacked from all directions at once, like a swarm of angry bees. Their movements seemed random and unpredictable, but there was a plan behind the madness. The Council fleet was designed to fight organized enemies. Their defense systems were programmed to stop coordinated attacks by large formations. But the human ships were too scattered and too fast for their targeting computers to track effectively. Captain Morrison's destroyer punched through the outer defense grid, its experimental weapons blazing. The ship had been modified with kinetic bombardment systems that fired solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. The simple weapons cut through alien energy shields like they were made of paper. "These aliens have forgotten how to fight dirty," Morrison told his crew. "Let's remind them." The U.S. Defiant launched a barrage of cyber warfare viruses at the enemy fleet. The alien computer systems, designed to communicate with each other efficiently, became a weakness. The viruses spread from ship to ship, causing weapons to malfunction and engines to shut down. On the planet's surface, Colonel Nathan Brooks and his Special Forces team were carrying out their most dangerous mission yet. They had infiltrated the Council Chamber, the massive building where the galaxy's leaders made their decisions. "Remember," Brooks told his team, "we're not here to capture the building. We're here to send a message to every species in the galaxy." The team fought their way through the building's security systems, using weapons and tactics that the alien guards had never seen before. They moved fast and struck hard, leaving confusion and fear in their wake. When they reached the main broadcast center, Brooks activated a communication device that would send their message to every world in the galaxy. Admiral Carter's face appeared on screens across thousands of planets. "Citizens of the galaxy," Carter began, "for too long you have lived under the control of the Council. They have told you that their rule brings peace, but they have brought you only fear and oppression." As she spoke, the broadcast showed evidence of the Council's crimes. Secret files revealed how they had destroyed entire species for showing. Too much independence. They had suppressed technological development to keep other races weak. They had used fear and intimidation to maintain their power. "Today, humanity offers you a choice," Carter continued. "You can continue to live as slaves, or you can fight for your freedom. We have shown that the Council can be defeated. Join U.S., and together we can build a galaxy where all species are free." The message was broadcast to billions of beings across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, people began to question the Council's authority. Some species started organizing resistance movements. Others began preparing for war. Meanwhile, the battle around Nexus Prime was reaching its climax. The human fleet had taken heavy losses, but they had also dealt devastating damage to the Council forces. The aliens were beginning to panic as their careful strategies failed against human unpredictability. General Mitchell's ground forces had landed on the planet's surface, but they weren't trying to conquer territory. Instead, they were spreading chaos and confusion. They captured alien technology and used it in ways its creators had never imagined, Dr. Elena Vasquez. The fleet's chief engineer led a team that turned the planet's own defense systems against the Council fleet. They hacked into the orbital platforms, and reprogrammed their weapons to fire on alien ships instead of human ones. Their technology is more advanced than ours, she explained to her team, but they've made it too complicated. They've forgotten that simple solutions are often the best ones. The turning point came when the Council's ultimate weapon was revealed. Deep beneath the planet's surface, hidden for thousands of years, was a device capable of destroying entire star systems. The supreme leader of the Council, an ancient being known only as the Archon, decided to use it against Earth itself. "If we cannot control the humans," the Archon declared, "then we will eliminate them completely. Let this be a lesson to any species that dares to challenge our authority." The weapon began to charge, drawing power from the planet's core. Energy. Readings spiked across the system as the device prepared to fire. If it succeeded, Earth and everyone on it would be destroyed in seconds. But humanity's quantum communication network allowed them to detect the weapon's activation. Immediately, Admiral Carter realized that they had only minutes before the device was ready to fire. "All ships converge on the planet's surface," she ordered. "We have to stop that weapon before it destroys Earth." The human fleet dove toward the planet, ignoring the defensive fire from the surface. They were taking massive casualties, but they didn't slow down. Every second counted. Captain Morrison's ship was hit by enemy fire, but he kept flying toward the weapon's location. "Amy," he called to Commander Rodriguez, "I need you to take command of the fleet. I'm going to stop that weapon." "Jake, no," Rodriguez replied. "You'll never survive a direct attack on the weapon." "Someone has to do it," Morrison said. "And I'm the closest." Admiral Carter heard the conversation and made a decision that would be remembered forever. "Negative, Captain Morrison. I'm taking the UE's Valiant straight into the weapons control center. All ships, cover my approach." The massive flagship accelerated toward the planet's surface, its weapons firing at everything in its path. The ship was taking tremendous damage, but Carter kept it flying through sheer determination. "Admiral, you need to abandon ship," her crew begged. "No," Carter replied. "This is the only way to stop the weapon. Tell my family I died protecting them." The U's Valiant smashed into the weapons control center at full speed. The explosion was visible from orbit, a brilliant flash of light that lit up the entire planet. The weapon's power core overloaded, creating a chain reaction that tore through. The planet's crust, the Supreme Leader's ancient stronghold, was destroyed in the explosion. The Archon, who had ruled the galaxy for centuries, was killed instantly. The weapon that could have destroyed Earth was turned into a pile of twisted metal and melted rock. The symbolic impact was even greater than the physical destruction. There, Galaxy watched as humanity's leader sacrificed herself to prevent genocide, while the Council's leader had tried to commit it. The contrast was clear to everyone who saw the broadcast. Across the galaxy, species that had remained neutral began joining the human cause. The rigid hierarchy of the Council started to collapse as individual species began pursuing their own interests instead of following central commands. The Vrak Empire, their military might broken by months of unconventional warfare, sent a message requesting peace negotiations. The Zephyrians, still dealing with the chaos on their homeworld, began withdrawing their forces from human space. Captain Morrison, now commanding the remnants of the human fleet, received surrender messages from dozens of alien commanders. They had seen what humans were capable of when pushed to their limits, and they wanted no part of it. "Admiral Carter saved us all," Morrison said to his crew. "She showed the galaxy that humans will sacrifice anything to protect innocent lives." While the Council was willing to commit genocide to maintain power, the battle for Nexus Prime was over. The Council's fleet was scattered, their leadership was dead, and their authority was crumbling. Species across the galaxy were declaring independence and forming new alliances. But the most important victory was not military. It was the victory of an idea. The galaxy had seen that tyranny could be defeated, that freedom was possible, and that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was to stand up to bullies, no matter how powerful they seemed not, as the human fleet regrouped. In orbit around the burning planet, Commander Rodriguez took charge of the next phase of the war. But now it wasn't about defeating the Council. It was about building something better to replace it. Carter died so that we could be free, Rodriguez told her officers. Now we have to make sure her sacrifice wasn't in vain. We have to build a galaxy where this kind of tyranny can never happen again. The flames on Nexus Prime could be seen. From space, a reminder of what happened when someone tried to destroy humanity's spirit. The galaxy would never forget this day, or the price that had been paid for freedom. Commander Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at the ruins of Nexus Prime. Smoke still rose from the burning cities below, but she could see something else in the distance. Ships from dozens of different species were arriving. In the system, not to attack, but to talk. 3 weeks had passed since Admiral Carter's sacrifice destroyed the Council's ultimate weapon. In that time, the galaxy had changed completely. The rigid control that had kept species in line for centuries was gone, replaced by confusion and hope. "Commander," Lieutenant Davis called out, "we're getting communication requests from over 50 different species. They all want to negotiate." Rodriguez nodded. She had been promoted to Admiral after Carter's death, but she still felt like she was too young for such responsibility. The fate of the galaxy was in her hands. "Put the VRAC delegation through first," she said. "Let's see what they have to say." The screen flickered, and Hive Queen Vexstar appeared. The insectoid alien looked very different from the last time Rodriguez had seen her. Instead of the arrogant ruler who had threatened humanity, she now seemed tired and defeated. "Admiral Rodriguez," the alien said, "the VRAC Empire formally requests peace negotiations. We have withdrawn all our forces from human space, and we offer full reparations for the damage we have caused." Rodriguez was surprised by the alien's tone. "What changed your mind, Hive Queen?" "Your Admiral Carter," Vexstar replied. "She died. To save lives, while our leaders were willing to destroy entire worlds to maintain power. We have seen the difference between true leadership and tyranny." Similar messages came from other species. The Zephyrians, still dealing with the storms on their homeworld, wanted help rebuilding their weather control systems. The Helix Collective offered to share their advanced technology in exchange for human protection. But Rodriguez knew that simply accepting surrenders wasn't enough. The galaxy needed a new system of government, one that would prevent another council from rising to power. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a fleet of ships from multiple species, had an idea. What if we don't try to replace the council with another central government? What if we let each species govern itself? "That sounds like chaos," Dr. Rachel Stone said. She had arrived from her research station to help plan the new galactic order. Without some kind of central authority, there will be wars and conflicts everywhere. "Maybe," Morrison replied, "but at least they'll be free to make their own choices. Isn't that better than living under the control of tyrants?" Rodriguez thought about Admiral Carter's final message to the galaxy. She had promised freedom, not just for humans, but for all species. That meant giving up the chance to replace the council with human rule. "Jake's right," she decided. "We're not going to become the new council. We're going to help create something better." The negotiations took place on a neutral space station that had been hastily constructed in the ruins of the Nexus system. Representatives from over 100 species gathered to discuss the future of the galaxy. Ambassador Claire Thompson led the human delegation. She had spent her entire career dealing with aliens, and she understood how difficult it would be to get so many different species to agree on anything. "We're not here to tell you how to live," she told the assembled delegates. We're here to make sure that no one else can tell you how to live either. The debates were intense. Some species wanted to maintain the old system with minor changes. Others wanted complete independence. A few even suggested that humans should take over as the new galactic leaders. No, Rodriguez said firmly when the suggestion was made. We didn't fight this war to become the new oppressors. We fought it to end oppression. The solution came from an unexpected source. The tide runners, the aquatic species that had been, the first to join the human cause, proposed a new system they called the Galactic Assembly. Instead of a few powerful species controlling everyone else, flow singer Cathala explained, every species gets an equal voice in galactic affairs. Decisions are made by debate and voting, not by force. The idea was revolutionary. In the old system, powerful species like the Zephyrians and Vrak had dominated weaker ones. In the new system, a small species with only one planet would have the same voice as a major empire. It will never work, protested a Zephyrian delegate. The smaller species don't have the experience to make important decisions. Then they'll learn, Townsend replied. Everyone deserves the chance to make their own mistakes. The negotiations continued for weeks. There were arguments, walkouts, and moments when it seemed like the entire process would collapse. But gradually, a new structure began to emerge. Galactic Assembly would meet once a year to discuss issues that affected multiple species. There would be no permanent rulers, no central military, and no taxes or tribute payments. Each species would contribute what they could and receive help. When they needed it, trade would flow freely between worlds. Scientific knowledge would be shared openly. Conflicts would be resolved through mediation rather than warfare. Dr. Stone was put in charge of establishing medical exchanges between species. The biological weapons she had created during the war were destroyed, and she focused on developing treatments that could help all galactic citizens. It's ironic, she told Rodriguez. I spent months figuring out how to make aliens sick, and now I'm spending years figuring out how to make them healthy. Captain Morrison was given command of the new Galactic Defense Force, a voluntary organization, made up of ships from many different species. Their job was not to conquer or control, but to protect trade routes and help with disasters. We're not soldiers anymore, he told his mixed crew of humans, Vrak, and Tide Runners. We're guardians. We protect the peace that so many people died to create. The transformation wasn't easy. Some species struggled with the concept of democracy. Others had difficulty trusting their former enemies. There were disputes over trade routes, territorial boundaries, and resource rights. But gradually, the new system began to work. Species that had been enemies for centuries started trading with each other. Young beings from different worlds attended the same schools. Scientists shared discoveries that benefited everyone. The Vrak Empire, with their natural talent for organization, became instrumental in establishing the new trade networks. The Zephyrians, humbled by their experiences, focused on rebuilding their society with human assistance. 1 year after the Battle of Nexus Prime, the first meeting of the Galactic Assembly was held. Representatives from over 200 species gathered in a massive space station constructed jointly by dozens of worlds. President Kevin Walsh gave the opening address. 1 year ago, we faced a choice between freedom and slavery. Today, we see the result of that choice. We have built something that has never existed before, a galaxy where all species are truly equal. The assembly wasn't perfect. There were still arguments, disagreements, and problems to solve. But they were the problems of free beings making their own choices, not the problems of slaves obeying their masters. Rodriguez, now serving as the first elected president of the assembly, looked out at the delegates and felt a mixture of pride and sorrow. Admiral Carter would have been proud to see what her sacrifice had accomplished. We have proven that freedom is possible, she told the assembly. Now we must prove that it can last. The meeting ended with a ceremony honoring those who had died in the war. Admiral Carter's name was inscribed on a memorial wall, along with the names of thousands of others who had given their lives for freedom. But the most important memorial was the galaxy itself. Children from dozens of species played together in the station's parks. Scientists from different worlds worked side by side in the laboratories. Traders from various species negotiated deals in the markets. 10 years later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The fear that had once kept civilizations in line had been replaced by hope. The rigid hierarchy of the council was gone, replaced by a system where anyone could rise as high as their abilities would take them. Ambassador Thompson, now elderly but still sharp, watched the latest assembly meeting with satisfaction. "We did it," she said to Rodriguez. "We actually did it." "Admiral Carter did it," Rodriguez replied. "She showed the galaxy that sometimes you have to be willing to sacrifice everything to protect what matters most." A new memorial was being built in the center of the station. It would honor not just those who had died in the war, but the idea they had died for, that freedom was worth any price. The inscription on the memorial read, "She burned so that others might see the light." It was a reminder that Admiral Carter's sacrifice had not just saved Earth, but had lit a fire that would burn forever in the hearts of free beings everywhere. The galaxy had learned that when humanity said, "Prepare to watch your worlds burn," they didn't just mean the worlds of their enemies. They meant the old world of oppression and tyranny. From those ashes had risen something unprecedented. A galaxy where freedom was not just a human concept, but a universal right that every species could claim. And in the deepest part of space, where new stars were being born from the dust of ancient worlds, the light of that freedom continued to shine, growing brighter with each passing day.